Lesson 5. First among fundamentals, earnings and sales growth. In Bill O'Neill's 45-year study of the greatest stock market winners, he discovered that earnings and sales growth were two of the most important fundamental factors. In this lesson, Bill O'Neill gives real-life examples of companies that demonstrate these winning characteristics. What's the main thing that separates the really successful investors from those who only get average results?
Your objective is not to be right all the time. It's to make big money when you are right, and to get out early when you appear to be wrong. To make big money, you've got to buy the very best. Companies that are number one in their fields are the real market leaders.
How do you find the big winners?
We've found that strong sales and earnings were among the most important characteristics of winning stocks. This becomes obvious when you see what really great companies looked like in terms of their sales, earnings, and profit margins before they launched price increases of 200% to 1,000% or more. You're looking for strong increases in quarterly sales and earnings compared to the same quarter the year before. You also want to see acceleration in the percent increases in quarterly earnings over the most recent quarters.
What are some examples?
In October 1986, 6 months after its initial public offering, Microsoft's latest quarter sales were up 68%, and its earnings were up 75%. This quarterly earnings gain was its 7th in a row. In March 1982, 6 months after its IPO, Home Depot's earnings were up 140% in the most recent quarter. Sales in the most recent 3 quarters accelerated from plus 104% to plus 158% to plus 191%, with the last 9 quarters each averaging plus 177%. In 1990, Cisco Systems' earnings were up in the prior 9 quarters from plus 150% to plus 1,100%, with the average being plus 443%. When I purchased Priceco in April 1981, it showed 14 quarters of large sales and earnings increases. This is what I mean when I refer to the fundamental sales and earning power behind the biggest winners. All of these stocks had enormous gains after posting these sales and earnings figures.
Any other fundamentals to look for besides quarterly sales and earnings?
You should also look for growth in annual earnings, a longer-term indicator. Microsoft's annual earnings growth rate was 99% at the point it took off in 1986, and Cisco Systems was 57% in 1990. Priceco's annual earnings growth rate showed 90%. These leaders also displayed a strong return on equity and healthy pre-tax profit margins. The ROEs of Microsoft, Home Depot, and Cisco Systems were 40%, 28%, and 36% respectively, and Microsoft and Cisco Systems both had pre-tax profit margins of 33%. All of this happened before they went on to make their biggest price increases during the 1990s. My rule of thumb is look for stocks with annual earnings growth rates of 30% or more and ROEs of 17% or higher.
Where do you find these measurements?
Years ago, our research and brokerage firm developed a database-driven proprietary rating system that would benefit our institutional clients when evaluating current and longer-term earnings performance. The earnings per share PES rating, available to individual investors every day only in Investors Business Daily's stock tables, combines each company's 2 most recent quarters' earnings per share growth with its 3 to 5 year annual growth rate. It then compares each company with every other publicly traded company in order to provide a relative earnings rating. On a scale from 1 to 99, a company with a 99 EPS rating is in the top 1% of all companies in terms of its earnings growth record. Consider this: both Microsoft and Cisco Systems had EPS ratings of 99 prior to their huge gains.
Just how big were those gains?
Microsoft was up 266% in only 30 weeks from the period in 1986. Home Depot was up 912% in less than 1.5 years from 1982. And Cisco Systems and Priceco advanced 2,000% and 750% respectively since 1990 and 1982.
Anything else to look for?
My last suggestion is the most important. If you come to understand and have the courage to implement it, you could find the next Microsoft and make a fortune. The major price advances of all the stocks I've mentioned followed periods of price correction and base building in which the prices made no real progress. These chart bases were almost always formed specifically because of a decline or correction in the general market averages. In each case, when the market finally turned, had a clear follow-through, and began a new uptrend, these leaders were the first stocks in the market to advance into new high ground. In October 1990, as soon as the general market turned, Cisco Systems was one of the first out of the gate with a gain of $7 from $22 to $29 in 1 week alone, indicating its early leadership.
Sounds as if you look at bear markets or corrections in a different way for most people.
I think of them as huge opportunities because all the future big leaders are building bases and will rebound fast, whether it's tomorrow or 3 months later when the general market finally snaps out of its correction. It's a period you absolutely never want to miss.
Summary. 1. To make big money, you have got to buy the very best companies at the right time. 2. Strong sales and earnings are among the most important characteristics of winning stocks. 3. Look for stocks with strong and continuous increases in quarterly earnings. You also want annual earnings growth of 30% or more. The EPS rating combines these for you and shows you how your stock is doing compared to all other stocks. 4. Look for ROEs of 17% or higher. 5. Buying a stock as it's coming out of a price consolidation area or base is crucial to making large gains.